So we're moving on to our last piece of news on the podcast for today. We wanted to leave this one last, even though we know that this is an older piece of news, because we knew that we didn't want to bum you guys out by just kind of throwing it on in the middle of the podcast, and then have to go on to something else and be like, and moving on to some excellent news, or even if it was a sad piece of news, it isn't as sad as this. We're talking about, as you can tell if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, from the title of the video, from the thumbnail, we're talking about Stan Lee and not only his passing, but what he meant to us and what he brought to the table or helped bring to the table, and kind of how that shaped what we enjoy both growing up and now. And also I'll be looking through, Googling not just his name, but also what some other people, how they're reacting to Stan Lee's passing. There's one story that we'll leave till next podcast, which is actually coming up relatively soon, so don't worry about that. That'll be filmed soon, and because there's one reaction that I think was so shitty, was such a bad take, that I think it deserves its own segment. But not on this episode, because we want to talk about the good. We want to talk about the positive. Because even though he passed, he lived a long, long life. He was in his 90s.
Yeah.
Like, dear God, 95.
95, right.
Who gets to live to 95? I mean, dear God. Like, bless him. Like, 95.
Yeah.
Recently he went through some troubles with his daughter, and I believe his daughter's husband, regarding money, and then some weird issues with people working for him, and then them claiming, he did some inappropriate stuff, and then him claiming that they stole stuff from him, like money-wise, and, things went missing. So there's just all this stuff that happened to him in the last few years of his life. Now, unless people come out and say directly, no, Stan hurt me 30, 40 years ago, or 20, or 10, or even 5, I'm not going to get into all that stuff, because that's not what this is about. And again, we'll do a video on that as well, so we're not going to let that slide if something like that happened. It's just, I only bring it up because the issues with his daughter and her husband, that just got really weird, because he was talking about, like, he was making videos, and it sounded like it was like a hostage situation, where he was like, everything's fine with me and my daughter, don't worry. But, like, you would see, look in his eyes, and you're like, Stan, blink. Stan, like, if something's wrong, blink. Like, I don't know if you saw those videos, Tristan, like a year or so ago, but
No, I didn't.
it was weird, and, like, there was some shit going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but there was some shit going on there. So, good stuff, though. Talking about the nice things that people have done. The actor that plays Thor, Chris Hemsworth, said that he wanted to, I believe it was said that he wanted to get some people together who played different, Marvel characters, either that Stan Lee created or just in general that Stan Lee helped build with the Marvel Universe overall, and go to his funeral in costume. Which I think would have been, it would be half beautiful, and it's weird because, like, it's either beautiful or it sounds like it's a mockery, and I feel bad because to me it sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a mockery. I think Stan Lee would find that. I think he would find that humorous.
Yeah.
I think he'd enjoy it.
We don't know the guy, but I think he'd laugh at that.
Right, and like, if that scene is disrespectful to the family, I guess that's another.
Right.
Like, obviously, I'm sure Hemsworth would, contact the family and be like, hey, look, we want to do this in good faith.
Also,
it's okay.
Every actor has to do that, because if someone cops out, it then looks really bad.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has to get on board, or at least everyone who is an original Avenger has to get on board.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like, why didn't you, like, Paul Rudd, why didn't you dress up? You didn't read the email? Come on, Paul. Like, you'd have to get everyone on board. I didn't mean to pick on Paul Rudd. I love him. Again, don't know him, but good actor. Anyway, so, it's, he did so much, and just talking about some of the stuff that he was a lot more directly involved in, like Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. I remember, I've grown up on Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man has been a part of, like, my entire life in a weird way. Now, I don't like to attach my identity to the stuff that I love, right? And it's funny because some of you guys are going to be like, Matt, you have a YouTube channel. I do, but when I say attach my identity, if Dragon Ball Super's manga was canceled tomorrow, or even the series, I would dislike it. I would be disappointed. You bet your ass we'd be talking about it on the podcast. But I don't like to make it seem like that's a part of my core to the point where I'd be like, I'm going to send death threats. I'm so mad. Like, no.
I mean, you wouldn't do that anyway.
No, but when people take certain things and claim to like have it like really be attached and so much a part of themselves. Like Tristan, you can live without Dragon Ball Z. You did for years when they didn't come out with new Dragon Ball Z stuff.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like even though you and I are huge Dragon Ball Z fans, I mean, you guys can see the manga behind me if you're watching this video on our YouTube channel. That doesn't mean that it is all that I am. I am more than a fan of anime, manga, Dragon Ball Z. Like, I am so much more than that. Those are pieces of media. But that doesn't change the fact that as a kid, Spider-Man really shaped my life with how much of it that I consumed. Not so much the comic books, but the video games, the TV shows, the movies. I don't know what characters of his might have called out to you, Tristan, but Spider-Man being the kid that got bullied and was able to kind of rise above that and not really stoop to that level most of the time, other than some instances where when he did fall off that wagon, he was called out by other characters, or by himself. He was like, oh God, I've made a mistake. Or Aunt May, always ready to give some, a clapback, verbal clapback. So when it came to, Spider-Man, I really enjoyed the 90s animated show that aired on Fox. Not sure if you ever watched that. But I enjoyed it because they ended up having crossovers. Yeah, because they had crossovers with other heroes in the Marvel Universe. Some that had animated TV shows, some that didn't. So it would be normal to have Spider-Man doing his thing, and he's like, oh God, this is terrible. Oh, in the first episode, I don't know if it was the first shown on TV, but I think it was the first that was produced. Either way, depending on what order you watch it in, he went up against the Lizard. And the Lizard was in the sewer. So Spider-Man is going in the sewer, and he goes, you never see the Fantastic Four in a sewer. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, he just name-dropped the Fantastic Four like it's normal. Kind of creating this this universe that was created in the comics long, long before we had movies that either depicted these characters in an expanded universe or depicted them well. Although I will admit, the Incredible Hulk 70s series with Bill Bixby, he did have crossovers with Thor and Daredevil. To be fair. Because there was a court case and Matt Murdock was a lawyer on it. It was interesting stuff. But still, they did have crossovers even in the 70s on TV. I mean, there was a 70s Spider-Man show both in the US and in Japan. Loved Toei Spider-Man. But still. So that really resonated with me watching the movies. I'm pretty sure you saw the Raimi movies with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
That one growing up. I mean, if you guys don't know, Tristan and I are 26, so you can kind of fit us in. You can be like, oh yeah, okay. So then some of you guys out there might have watched similar cartoons, like we did. I mean, Fox Kids was littered with not just Spider-Man. You had Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, the X-Men show.
Right.
I mean, for anyone that says nowadays, X-Men is way too PC, they literally had politicians in the comics in the 70s that looked like Mike Pence. Who, I'm not trying to get political, I'm just being serious here, because people made memes about it, who look like Mike Pence, who, Mike Pence now talks about being, not having a gay marriage and also having electrocution therapy. I can't think of the exact words, electrotherapy, to try to, get the gay away, quote unquote. And so you have stuff like that with Pence, and you look at politicians, and they look like Pence, talking about anti-mutants' rights.
Right.
This is like, this all that stuff with the X-Men that isn't new. So saying like, they seem to be for the rights of people that are considered, minorities and stuff like that. Why is that turning out that way? It isn't. It's been that way for 50 years. Right. There's a reason why people called them mutie scum and stuff like that. And that didn't start directly in the 2000s movies. It was there, of course, but it didn't just start there.
Right.
Comic books. They had actual comic books where you had protesters where people were protesting mutants existing.
Yeah.
I mean, Days of Future Past and the Sentinels and all that stuff, that was in the 80s. It's 30 years now. You know, at 30 years old now. And all of that, at least, majority of that, at least Stan Lee had a hand in it. So, you know, some people are saying, like, Stan Lee created everything. Not true. He's, you know, the god of Marvel, you could argue, yes. But he isn't the creator of every single thing in Marvel. Of course, Stan Lee eventually stepped back after, like, there are certain issues of Spider-Man that you're like, okay, that's Stan Lee. Or Fantastic Four, where you're like, that's Stan Lee and Kirby. But of course, Stan Lee didn't create everything. Like, I believe Stan Lee's name is on Punisher. But he didn't sit there and write Punisher with everyone else. Yeah, but still, that doesn't mean that we can't spread that love due to, if he never created Spider-Man, then we wouldn't have Spider-Man.
It's still that situation where he's part of the essential universe that it's a universe that he's created, and other people, it's big enough, and there's so many stories that you can write in that universe that so many other artists can come in, you know, designers, writers, everything, that everyone can kind of make their own story within the expanse of this universe. And that's always something beautiful when you're able to create something like that.
Especially going outside the bounds of those universes to create new and interesting stories to tell via the lens of these characters. So things like Marvel Zombies. Where it's like, hey, this is a random universe that this happened, but what if there was a zombie apocalypse that ended up taking over this universe, and from that, you have different people getting infected, and Spider-Man being one of them that got infected, he actually, I don't know if it's due to, like, maybe a strong will or the fact that he was infected by the spider already, but he actually was able to somewhat try to control himself. So he told Aunt May and Mary Jane to get out of the house. As he's saying, like, they're like, what's wrong, Petey? And he's like, look, I'm hungry. Leave. Because he could sense that it was coming.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably what it was. He has this fucking spider sense, so he could have, like, some sort of, like, weird kind of foresight into what was happening. Which now makes me want to go back and read Marvel Zombies. Also, I have some of the original Spider-Man comics as Marvel Essentials, which I would suggest some of you guys get if those are still in print. They're black and white, but if you read manga like me, that doesn't really matter. But you get more issues and a more bang for your buck. You can get, like, instead of getting maybe, like, 10 or 15 issues for $50 in full color, you can get, like, 20 issues for $20 in black and white.
Right.
I'd rather go for that. Honestly, if they're still available, I'll probably have some as an affiliate link down in the description box down below, because I really want people to go out and get these. You can support the channel too if you want. You can get them through any other way. But I really enjoyed reading those. Especially you get to find out, like, how the Green Goblin started and how his first appearance was on a movie set.
Yeah.
No, like, Green Goblin's first appearance, before we know that he's Norman Osborn, he's trying to defraud and murder Spider-Man on a movie set.
Right.
Where Spider-Man was like, can I actually legally be on this set and be starring in the movie because you don't know who I am behind the mask? And they were like, whatever, kid, it's fine. Because Green Goblin was bankrolling the whole thing to try to murder Spider-Man.
Right.
And then guess what happened? They set off some explosions, and guess who woke up in a cave and ended up helping Spider-Man?
Osborn?
No. No, what? No, Osborn wasn't a thing.
No.
The Hulk.
Oh.
Because the Hulk was in a cave somewhere, as he is wont to be. And they were setting off explosions during the movie, again, trying to kill Spider-Man in some wonky 60s, you know, turnabout, like, oh, well, instead of just shooting him in the face, we'll make explosions on a movie set. And the Hulk woke up, and this is the version of the Hulk that could actually talk at first.
Right.
So, because I don't know if some of you guys might not know, original Hulk, he actually could speak in sentences here and there. He wasn't like, Hulk sad. He would be like, oh, what is happening to Hulk? Like, there was still a little bit of grammatical errors here and there, but it wasn't like grunting with like, Hulk mad. It was similar sentences, which was so interesting at the time because, again, even though he wasn't Bruce Banner, he could still articulate himself, and he was just a guy, even as Hulk, trying to live in exile at certain points. Like, look, man, it's fucking, the city's just too much is going on. Like, let me just live in a cave somewhere, and then what happens? Explosions, and he's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But, I would suggest if you guys can, go back and look at older Stan Lee interviews. They're so funny. There was one that Stan Lee did with Conan O'Brien that Conan O'Brien's YouTube channel posted. You can go check that out. I don't know if I can leave that link down below, but I will have... You can still find it regardless, because it was just posted after his passing. And Stan Lee, this was in like 95, when Stan Lee talked about the crossover between DC and Marvel. Because that happened for a few issues. Back when both companies were on edge about, like, are we going to survive?
Yeah.
Definitely Marvel. Not sure about DC, but definitely Marvel. So, Stan Lee was doing this interview, and he was so funny, because he was saying, like, and Conan, we're going to have a crossover with the amazing, mightiest heroes of Marvel and DC. I just lost it. Because he would be like, we have these amazing, larger-than-life superheroes from Marvel. And a couple of those DC guys. And I was just like, Stan Lee, damn it. Stop doing this.
Right.
But it was so much fun. It was interesting because, you know, he was talking about, during the interview, like, what superheroes would go up against each other. Conan was even talking about who would win against who. So it was just... It was so interesting to see that, and it was just, I don't know, it just really made me think about how much the things that he had a hand in creating, even if he did not continue on creating them, how much they had a hand in what I've enjoyed over the years, you know, as a kid, because, you know, yes, you quote-unquote grow out of, you know, either certain heroes or certain comic books, or it might be a bit harder to go out and read some of the older comics. But still, if Stan Lee wasn't around to have a hand in creating or to create some of these characters, all of the Spider-Man stuff, boom, gone, Thanos, like just gone, out of existence.
Oh God.
No, but it's crazy to think about. So like, so question, I know like you're not a big comic book reader, Tristan, but when it comes to like Spider-Man, I know your love isn't there compared to mine because it's like, Matt, calm down, breathe, but. Has anything that he's created, like Fantastic Four, or just other Marvel properties, even ones that he may not have had a hand in directly, any of those, like, call out to you, personally?
Yeah, well, for me, I haven't really been... Like, I've seen some of the cartoons, like, I saw a bit of X-Men, I saw a bit of Spider-Man, like you were saying before. I never really read Marvel comics, but my dad was actually really into Marvel comics when they came out. And yeah, I've said before in the past, his favorite from Marvel was Iron Fist. And he still has some of the old comics. He even has, it's actually in our basement, it's this big like whiteboard that he put together with different like comic strips, and he actually painted like a portrait of Iron Fist behind it, and it was really cool. He's even got a ceramic statue that he made of Iron Fist that's still at my grandmother's house. That's
amazing. So,
yeah,
I wanna touch on the Iron Fist thing for a second, because some people might be confused. They're like, Iron Fist? Do you mean that lukewarm? Luke Cage. That lukewarm to awkward to bad Netflix show? Not just that, but.
No.
But referring to the Heroes for Hire, which in Season 2 of Luke Cage, and even Season 1 a little bit, they make jokes about that, where, like, literally they ask Luke Cage, like, are you a hero for hire? Or, like, are you for hire? And it's like, I see what you did there. But the reason why I bring it up, though, is because of the fact that when they worked together, this was in the 70s. I don't think it was in the 60s. It was in the 70s when they worked together as Heroes for Hire, when Luke Cage was Power Man. By the way, a powerful African-American man who is not a criminal. I believe they still did have the background that he was in jail, so take that as you will. But still, not a criminal in the sense that he's not a bad guy. He's not one of the thugs. He's working to help apprehend the thugs. Alongside Iron Fist, who I will admit in some ways you could argue has not aged well in the sense that, you know, even though Kunlun isn't a real society, it comes off as white guy comes into society, learns Asian martial arts, kung fu, whatever you want to refer to it as, and then comes out knowing even more than the inhabitants who are Asian. Again, Kunlun isn't real, so you could argue that as well. But still, the point though is having an African American person and a white person coming together, working together on the streets, taking in bad guys at a time when, even though racism still exists, it was even more prevalent, I would imagine. A lot more people saying, hey boy, to people who were much older than them, just due to the fact of their skin color being different. You have these two working together and normalizing that behavior, because what's wrong with two people working together of different races to bring in criminals? Other than calling it vigilantism. Maybe that's the wrong part, Tristan. But other than vigilantism, what's wrong with them working together?
For my dad, I think it was just the idea that it was a character who was, his powers were like versed in martial arts and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
My dad, all of his friends at the time, were all into martial arts and studying.
Yeah.
Still do.
Yeah.
But, he also read, Thor, Iron Man, he read the Avengers. So, when all these new different, when the movies would start coming out, my dad would be like, oh, yeah, I remember when they did, the original comic run, and he'd tell me, stories about, things that had changed here and there. And
Iron Man's alcoholism, which, by the way, dealing with that in a comic book, and the stuff that Stan Lee, or at the very least Marvel, pushed, the things that they tackled with these very human characters. It's Iron Man is as rich as Batman and he has his own super suit. How is that relatable? The dude has alcoholism. And it's oh shit. Like that. Right. Well that kicked me. That gave me the leg sweep,
Right, yeah. And that's kind of one of the bits that I liked. I saw a video that was going around on Facebook, and it was I think it was a video that Stan Lee had made himself, or someone was filming him at home, or something like that. And he was just talking about, designing these heroes who are very human in the sense that, they have the powers and all of that, but at the end of the day, they're still people like us, and they are trying to live their life and do the right thing. Yeah. He was trying to show stories of people who were trying to step up and be an example for what we all can be as people.
Exactly.
Bringing up the best in humanity, at least trying,
And it's just good because, even if someone says, oh, but comic books are for kids, who cares? Well, but again, you want to teach good things to kids. What do you...
Yeah, and every kid grows up, too, and those lessons that you learned as a kid, even if it's just reading, a comic book as a kid, a lot of that stuff stays with you growing up into an adult.
Exactly.
And it's important. It's still important, to you. It's important to other people. That impact that you felt never really goes away. And you want that to be a positive message and a good thing and something that you can learn and grow from and even pass on to your kids, or any kid, really. It doesn't even have to be yours.
Yeah.
But I respect that from him. If anything else, that's what I kind of took away from his passing, thinking about the stuff that he's created or, had a hand in. It's just trying to show the best of humanity, and that there is a good side to humanity. There's a lot of bad, but we need to focus on the good, and that's what we should try and cultivate more and more.
And then Punisher murdered everybody.
Thanks, Matt. Wow, okay.
I have to make jokes to deal with pain. Either way,
trying to be
we're gonna
falling deep or whatever,
we're gonna wrap this up here. I want to leave this on Tristan's message. Thank you all so much, and tell us down below what things Stan Lee inspired you to do, how he inspired you, and how Marvel has inspired you guys as well. Love you all. Take care, and tune in next time for another episode of Keikaku Corner. You guys know where to find us. Thank you all so much. Take care and see ya.